It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Tuesday. Gary, what's happening?
Hello. How's everybody doing?
I like doing a mic check. Test 1, 2.
Hello. Check 1, 2. Check
1, 2.
Check 1, 2.
Semblance. All right.
Check 1, 2.
All right.
Here we go. Man, what a. There's just so many stories out there. I mean, I'm just looking at this headline though. Mandami to discourage Intifada call. Apparently, he didn't know that globalize the Intifada. He didn't know what it meant until a rabbi told him.
Oh. So, I don't know. Is he, let's go back to the Obama years. Is he grappling? Is he learning?
I don't know.
Is he evolving? Those are all the excuses they used for Obama.
Well, we have the perfect example.
But Obama was no communist.
No, he was we can't call him a socialist because, remember, socialism was the new N-word.
Well, it wasn't until Bernie said, hey, wait a minute. Oh, I'm a socialist.
Well, and I love how in that case of the Ukrainian refugee.
Yeah.
In Charlotte. I mean, it happened last month. I mean, just horrendous. Mm. You know, you look at that video and it's blood curdling.
Yeah.
It's just there you are sitting on a subway and then boom.
Yeah.
I was just playing an audio cut, Brian Stelter talking about, well, you know, there's some on X that are making this a racial issue. Nobody as we all know, on X, anybody can write. Any bot can write. Yep. What you look at is what is the mainstream of politicians and law enforcement saying about it.
What are the known individuals saying about it?
Right.
Yeah, because if you're just reading comments, this is what I really despise about the way that the legacy media has, what's left of it, has become, I would say lazy, but what they do is it is a lazy approach, but they use comments from people that they don't even know are people. Now, if it's the official White House X account or something like that, you can, that's news. When it's a confirmed account, we know, according to their X account, this is what was posted on their X account. Buff Larry says...
Buff Larry.
I don't know where that comes from.
Well, I don't know. I don't know who Buff Larry is.
I don't know.
It sounds pretty egotistical and narcissistic to me.
Exactly.
Either the bot or the person.
Right, exactly.
Buff Larry.
Cleveland Sheila says, what? We don't care. You know?
Buffalo Bill says.
Right, exactly. By the way, I was in the airport the other day. It was on the day with all the cancellations. There was a guy with a Buffalo Bills T-shirt on. Looked really sad, and I thought, I don't know if he's sad because of the cancellations or because of the Bills.
Not the Bills.
It was before the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to be honest, to be fair. Yeah. So, but it, they...
Like I sounded like I was taking that seriously. Didn't I for a second there? Like
after the first game.
I'm just like, Eric, that's not
hey!
Eric, that's not right.
We won. Yeah, give it a minute.
But it's absolutely horrendous murder, and then you look at the rap sheet, and this is something that the mainstream of the Republican Party has been going after for the longest time.
Yeah.
And to make the interesting thing is, and let me just play this audio from Stelter. He's still around, huh?
I guess.
Here he is on CNN. Some of these people just won't go away. I'm saying that. I've been around doing this 43 years now.
Right. I just won't go away.
Nobody even heard of Brian Stelter when I started.
Yeah, right.
Jim,
not sure he was born when
I'm going to say
started.
was Jim Acosta. Jim Acosta wasn't born yet. Has lived an entire life and now is sitting in his basement since I've been doing talk radio.
Yeah.
But here it is. Here we go. Okay.
Second, the energy from pro-Trump activists. They picked up on this video from local news and ran with it. It's a little bit like the times when civil rights groups have raised attention about police-involved shootings. In this case, it is Trump-aligned influencers who are posting up a storm about this case on social media. Really, over the weekend, Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, other Trump-aligned figures succeeded in making this senseless death a symbol of big city crime. We heard President Trump asked about it yesterday when he was heading home from New York City. He didn't seem to know much about it. He said he would get briefed, and then today Trump did know all about it. That's exactly what has happened here. This story has trickled up from local news to social media and now to the president's attention, and it's being used, as you said, Brianna, as a political symbol, with MAGA media calling for more forceful punishments and more incarceration. I have to say, some of the replies to Musk, some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman. The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping. But there are also legitimate questions about this so-called career criminal, someone who had been a repeat offender. And those questions, I hope they're not lost amid all of the cesspool kind of comments on.
Shut up.
He's just making it up as he goes along.
Yeah.
Why do they try and walk that fence? Because the first thing he does, he comes out basically with the whole racism thing. Oh, but there are legitimate reasons to be concerned. But he's got to go racism first.
Well, and he's going racism. And by the way, it's not just the influencers, may have put this video out. I don't know where the video started. I mean, it was local news was covering it, of course.
Right.
Local news covers stuff like this, and then it's picked up.
It's going to go viral.
But really, I think it was the mayor's insane response. We need to look for the root causes. We need to blah 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 blah. And you see the rap sheet of the suspect, and it's like, what is this person out on the street for?
Right.
And it's not, if you look at, we need to look at the root causes of mental illness. This is almost, wasn't that Kamala Harris's job to look for the root causes?
Yeah.
And it was like, no, just stop it.
Right.
The people that do bad things, remove them from society.
Right.
That's how you.
They don't get to walk free.
Well, and she said the same thing. Who said it last? Was it last week? Was it Johnson who said it? We can't. Or was it some? Who said that in here in the last couple of weeks? I thought we brought it up on the air. Who said you can't incarcerate yourself out of this problem?
Oh,
well, actually, you can.
Was it the Chicago mayor, Brandon?
Was it Brandon? Yeah,
I think it was.
And it's just like, that was. We'll get to more of the specifics of it, but when you're trying to use the race card, as Stelter is, well, some responses, nobody knows who those responses are. We have no idea who they are. If it's somebody, as you said, with a legit account, and you know who that person is, then you can criticize them for it. It's got nothing to do with racism, just like, because this is the point. They want to continue to throw the racism out and then throw and say Trump and the influencers, yet it's Trump that has shined a light on the violence that's being perpetrated in major cities where a plurality or a majority of the people that are living there are minorities.
Yep.
Well, it's racist if you attempt to protect them, and it's racist if you bring up any criminal that somebody of a particular skin color has, no matter what. It does. It's almost like this. Think about this. Everything's the same. It's the same as, climate change. Well, it's too warm. Well, remember that's why they went from global warming to climate change.
Right, yeah.
Well, it got cold out. Well, that's climate change. And that's caused by what? Oh, it's caused by you having too much.
Yeah.
Well, it's too warm out. Well, the same thing. Well, it's just my porridge. It's just right. Well, that's also porridge climate change. And then let's go to a
then convenient oatmeal.
Well, let's go to a hockey or a basketball game in Seattle. Oh, it's the climate change pledge, whatever the hell it is, arena.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know why I threw that in there, but it just popped into my mind.
No, that's exactly where they are. They're all over the place, and they make an excuse for anything and everything. And back, it wasn't too long ago when they were saying, the far right ignores the inner cities and their problems with crime. Trump comes in to do something about it. That's racist.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, it's political. Shut up!
Everything that a politician does
is political. They're politicians.
Is it a solution or not?
Right. It's political. I look at this. This is just a political out there.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. What an observation. So they're a politician, and they're against evil people killing innocent people.
Right.
My God, it's political. There is no substance to it at all because the person is a politician. Well, what does a politician do? Well, a politician is a representative of the people who helps and also creates law, helps to create law and actually creates law to stop things like that happening. Well, now that you guys do on Red Eye Radio, you tear everything down completely. The whole politician thing or political thing is pretty stupid. Yeah, it's extremely stupid.
Yes. It's idiotic.
And so when you see all the clones and drones out there, it's political. Yeah, it's political. So they're wrong for hitting it because it's political. And I don't care if they want to stop the crime from happening. They're politicians and it makes it political, and therefore it's wrong. Idiots. Imbeciles. Morons.
What movie was that from? Somebody used that in a movie. That was actually a cut from a movie. That's funny because it always goes through my brain. What was that? Yeah, Not at the Roxbury. Yeah. All right. According to producer Ron, it was Night at the Roxbury. Dun, 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 dun. All right.
I cannot help.
No,
I've never watched
Chris
that whole
Kattan.
movie.
Yeah.
I've never watched that. I will say this. I did watch like 20 minutes of it, and it was, when they're driving down the road and
right. Yeah.
What is love comes up. What is love? And the head's going like, I don't know why that's so dang funny, but it is.
I don't.
I have no idea why it's so. I'm like, why am I laughing at this?
It's this insanity. Watching all of this play out.
Yeah, no.
Stelter and people like Stelter on the left screaming, we have to get the, and others, that are talking about the mental health crisis. These are people that want to send social workers to a scene, to a murder scene. They want to send social workers out to talk to people who commit the most horrific crimes. And then they talk about mental health crisis, yet when you bring it up about the liberal transgender movement, they scream at you for talking about it.
Yeah.
And say you can't talk about the mental health crisis because it makes the mental health crisis worse. That's where the left is today.
It doesn't make any sense, which is why you got to break everything down as we just did right now.
I'll tell you,
and I sort of think to myself, hey, you're wasting your time. It's like, yeah, but you got to do it. It's in the arena of ideas, and if they're going to say, well, and the influencers came, and so this has become a political issue.
I'll tell you where murderers can get counseling: in a maximum security prison. Give them all the counseling they can handle, as long as they don't get to walk free amongst us.
Now, is it used by Republicans to get a political advantage over Democrats? Well, yeah, because what you wish to do as a politician is get more people that believe it's wrong for evil people to murder each other.
Yeah.
You want more of them representing the people of the United States. So, yes, they are using it for their political advantage. Duh, because Democrats are insane.
Well, it's the next convention. The Republicans should come out and say, listen, here's number one on our platform. We're against murder.
Well, you and I did that years ago. Remember that?
The Eric and Gary platform. Yeah. And because what do you have on the left? You have anti-Semitism that's only growing. You have them cheering and making heroes out of murderers when a healthcare CEO is gunned down on the streets, and then making excuses in other cases. Well, that we need to get to the root of the cause of the mental health crisis. Okay, let's talk about the large mental health crisis with the transgender community. You can't talk about that because that makes the mental health crisis worse.
Yeah. But the mental health crisis is so bad that if you bring it up, they'll commit suicide.
Exactly.
That's the left's defense.
That's what they say. Yet we're supposed to send a social worker out to talk a murderer down from the ledge.
We got a great show, 866-90 Red Eye.
Hi there, this is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Truck drivers are at high risk for carpal tunnel and grip issues from long hours at the wheel, leading to pain, stiffness, and weakness over time. Let's fix that right at the wheel. Using your steering wheel, stretch one finger at a time, starting from your thumb to your pinky. Hold each of those for 10 seconds. Then place all 4 fingers on the wheel and gently press and stretch your palm and wrist. Hold for another 10 seconds. Don't forget to do the other hand. Do this 2 to 3 times a day to keep your hands mobile, strong, and ready for action. There you go. Small, simple changes that can lead to big results so you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and howesproducts.com for more tips and support.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. More on the politics. Okay, I just had to say that.
Yeah.
More on the Charlotte murder of the Ukrainian refugee, and it's because it's the perfect example. It's the perfect example of why Democrats are losing.
Yeah.
You cannot get a more perfect example, including the mayor of Charlotte, who just, backtracking, but the fact is, you and I have said this before, they really don't care.
No, they don't.
They
don't.
Law-abiding, innocent people.
Nope. They don't.
And we'll bring up something that you and I talked about 20 years ago. When it came to who really cares about stopping the violence in our cities? Who really cares? You and I always brought up that the 2 Supreme Court rulings, to allow, to ensure that in urban areas you have a right to bear arms, came from Republicans, and affected who the most? Law-abiding minorities.
Mm-hmm.
That and more on the way.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. So, yeah, it's not only the media or the lack of coverage, because that was brought up immediately, the lack of coverage of something like this by the media. That they're the ones that view it by the specter of color.
Right.
That they view it, well, we cannot, as a news item, have a news item where a black person is killing a white person.
Mm-hmm.
If it's reversed, they'd be all over it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care about the color of the skin.
No.
We could care less about the color of the skin.
Murder is murder.
Right. We care about human beings is what we care about. That's what Republicans care about. And that's why, for example, Brian Stelter, as we played earlier from CNN, has to bring up the racial angle on it.
Yep.
That you don't know who these, that you have people on X that are racist on this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, yeah, probably when you have something that's available to billions of people, there's going to be a racist comment. Is that what Trump is selling? Is that what the Republicans in North Carolina are attempting to sell you? Are they selling you racism, or are they trying to sell you the fact that they are the ones that don't believe that any murder should be excused, that the murderer is not a victim?
Well, and that the attempt to by Stelter and others that I saw is to sweep everything over into the Trump corner. Of course, that's what they've done for a long, long time. You know, the MAGA media, this and MAGA supporters, and blah 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 blah, and throw everything into one pile and ignore the facts of the case. As you mentioned, the video is brutal.
Yeah.
The moments leading up to the murder are hard to watch.
Yeah, knowing what's going to happen.
Knowing how it's going to end. Here is someone who's coming home from working at a pizzeria, sits down, and then the guy behind her seconds later just brutally takes her life. You know, then all the other peripheral issues there with other people on that train seemingly unaware, as the New York Post wrote, that someone had just been brutally murdered. I kind of find that hard to believe. I don't know what they were thinking, what they saw, what they didn't see. But the answer to all of this for the left is, well, that's racist to call someone out for murder because there's clearly a mental health issue, or there's this, there's that. We don't want to cover it. The suspect has an entire list of prior convictions and shouldn't have been on that train on that day.
The mayor, Vi Lyles, backed off on her original comments. We'll get to that in just a moment, but I'm reading here from Charles Cook, National Review, and he actually writes, he said, reading her comments, I was reminded of that moment in The Truman Show when Jim Carrey's character looks around and asks, what the hell has that got to do with anything?
Yeah.
And then he writes, who is Mayor Lyles talking to? Why is she saying what she's saying? And why is the press playing along as if the important story here is the Americans who are horrified rather than the politicians who are not? Lyles was keen to propose that, quote, we will never arrest our way out of issues such as homelessness and mental health. Well, that's nonsense. The guy who committed this crime has been arrested over and over and over again, including for assault, breaking and entering, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and communicating threats. He had resisted arrest. He had failed to appear in court. He had been caught multiple times in possession of a firearm, which his status as a felon prohibited. If instead of being out on the streets, he had been in prison, this would not have happened. Lyle's conclusion was that murder should force us to look at what we are doing across the community to address root causes. What rot! What utter rot! There was no magical root cause that yielded this attack. There was no clever government program that would have prevented it. Crazy or not, the guy was a career criminal who should have been locked up for one of the many, many crimes that he had been committed. If Lyles and her government are forced to look at anything, it's why they didn't do their jobs and why even now, having failed so spectacularly, they are more concerned with the feelings of the perpetrator and his friends than with the victim. Lyles said that the murderer suffered a crisis. Get a break. The crisis was felt by the woman who was killed, her family, and her friends, and everyone else who now feels that the city of Charlotte has no interest in their well-being. And then that's, she was criticized so heavily and came back with this statement, as I reflect, my God, as I reflect,
right,
pondering.
Yeah.
And as I start,
grappling.
As I grapple, as I ponder about the crime of
as
murder.
I evolve.
As I evolve. My heart continues to go out to her family and community over the past several weeks as our community has worked to understand this. What we know is this was a tragic failure by the courts and the magistrates. And then she talks about how they're increasing security and more money being spent. Everything that you would expect initially for someone to come out with also the horror of that moment, which she did not, even in that statement.
Well, because it tells you where her convictions are. It tells you what she actually believes.
Well,
I didn't have to reflect my initial thoughts on this. I didn't have to go, let me sit and think about what I really feel about this.
A murder happened here. Let's all sit back and reflect on this. Could we for a moment? Just for a moment, everybody sit back and reflect for a moment, because we need to understand all of the possibilities here and blah, 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 blah.
Only when they get called out.
And when you look at this, I mean, they're, as we've talked about before, actually, we never talked about the court ruling when we were on vacations. This just popped into my head now, saying that Trump, violated the posse comitatus law in Los Angeles. I don't believe he did.
I don't believe he did either.
Right?
No.
Because there's a difference between just sending. Now, when he talks about just sending the National Guard into cities like Chicago, not based on immigration, well, you may have a constitutional issue here as to, the Supreme Court eventually figuring out what is an emergency.
Right.
That's something that the Supreme Court, that was brought up in a lot of, discussion of the Supreme Court and tariffs with the president. But as been pointed out before, every president uses the emergency power. Then the courts figure out, okay, what did Congress mean by emergency in that particular case? But when it comes to posse comitatus, if the president just says, I'm sending National Guard troops to Chicago to stop crime, probably every court would say you can't do that.
Right.
But when your federal agents are being attacked, that's a different ballgame.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, posse comitatus does not apply to that.
Right.
But what is the motive of the president?
To stop the violence.
Well, no, it's probably to get a Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, I'm sorry, that was for Israel.
Yeah.
No, everything, the intent of the president is to garner support of the public. He's just trying to get support of the public on this. It's all political. He just, and all these Republicans are trying to get the support of the public by saying we need to stop murder.
Anyone saying that doesn't realize that what they're admitting is it's what the public wants.
Yeah, exactly.
He's doing the will of the public.
And so, the intent, and then like the whole racism thing that we brought up from Brian Stelter, some people are racist. Well, Trump's called a racist. Republicans are called racist if they wish to protect minorities from criminals or whether they want to punish the criminal irrespective of their skin color or nationality.
Right.
Doesn't matter. It's like climate change. It's encompassing everything. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. You're a racist. It brings me back, of course, to the Seinfeld Donna Chang episode.
Mm.
Yeah. What did he say? I really wasn't. He said,
I like Asian.
Was it
women,
I like Asians, or was it,
yeah.
or Pacific Rim? I don't know exactly what he said at that point. And then I forgot whether it was Elaine. I think that's racist. How is it racist if I like them?
Right. Exactly. And but this lack of logic on the left, and then applying this, I don't know what you call it, bizarro logic.
Good word.
Because it's a backwards logic altogether. Someone with a rap sheet brutally murders a girl on a train. We need to get to the root cause and the mental health crisis. The liberal transgender movement, you mentioned the health crisis, and you're responsible for the health crisis that, by the way, they admit is already in place. You're making it worse by talking about it.
Yeah.
This is bizarro logic, and it changes just like what they call climate change or global warming or light rain last Saturday. It ended up canceling my flight a few times. And all of these things, it's, it's over and over again. They peddle fear, and in the moments where fear should apply, they tell you to calm down.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you're being racist.
I'm so glad you brought that up, the radical transgender movement, because they're the ones that promote there's a huge mental crisis here. And so when you wish to discuss the mental crisis, and we go back again to the perfect example of that was Josh Hawley talking to the Berkeley professor, where he's trying to understand what's going on. Well, explain to me, how this whole thing works with the transgender movement. And she said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you believe men can get pregnant? And he said, well, no. Because what she told him is, I believe this whole line of questions is transphobic.
Right.
Now, number one, somebody has to one day define to me what transphobic means.
Right.
The whole phobic thing. What does it mean? It mean you're afraid of them? Does it mean I don't think Ted Cruz is afraid of anybody who is transgender. I don't think there's a fear. And I say Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley.
Or Ted Cruz.
And he was asking questions, and she said, well, that line of question is transphobic. And he goes, well, why? She goes, well, do you believe that men can get pregnant? And he goes, well, no. Well, see, don't you understand that transgenders have the highest rate of attempted suicide? And so what you're saying is actually violence against transgenders.
Right.
So what you're telling me is there's a huge mental crisis here because and she actually said their percentage is way higher than the normal public in attempting suicide.
Right.
Well, there's a mental health crisis here. And so let's talk about you can't talk about it. Well, are we supposed to talk about the mental health crises or not? What is you're the one that has promoted there's a mental health crisis. Now in Charlotte, you're saying there's a mental health crisis that we need to understand, but you don't want to talk about it when you admit in another area where you claim there's a mental health crisis.
It's the liberal activists and the liberal, far left liberal whack jobs using Play-Doh to make whatever they want out of it in the moment.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Some new polling out there that we will take a look at here in a little bit. The Supreme Court gets involved in Trump and the enforcement of immigration laws in this country, which was really, that was sort of a duh. I knew that's how they were going to come out with that one. So we will get to that plus the vaccines.
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't talk about yesterday the Kennedy testimony, did we?
No, we did not.
We'll get to that coming up.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning, as always. All right, the Supreme Court gets involved in the whole immigration raids thing, and just reading here both from SCOTUS blog and Andrew McCarthy in National Review. Just a really interesting legal case here, because when you look at it, it's about, all right, what she's saying is, what she said, let me just get it here. I want to make sure I get the right thing of what the judge said, the initial judge on this. Here it is. The U.S. District Judge barred agents in the Central District of California, an area with a population of approximately 20 million people, from making stops without reasonable suspicion that the person being stopped is in the United States illegally. Reasonable suspicion, Judge Frimpong added, cannot rest solely with any combination of four factors: apparent race or ethnicity, speaking in Spanish or accented English, being present in a location where undocumented immigrants are known to gather, such as pickup spots for day laborers, and working at specific jobs such as landscaping and construction. Monday's order by the Supreme Court puts that judge's ruling on hold. It's really interesting because when you look at what Judge Kavanaugh said, for example, to what the district judge has said, he said, putting aside that the plaintiffs in the case lack standing, the question whether agents have reasonable suspicion depends, under long-settled law, on the totality of the circumstances. Unavoidably, ethnicity and the lack of English language proficiency are among the facts from which an investigator may draw a reasonable conclusion that a person in Southern California may be in the country illegally. No one can permissibly be detained on that basis alone. To the contrary, Kavanaugh noted, the totality of the circumstances often includes the following: that there is an extremely high number and percentage of illegal immigrants in the Los Angeles area, and that those individuals tend to gather in certain locations to seek daily work, that those individuals often work in certain kinds of jobs, such as day labor, landscaping, agriculture, and construction, that do not require paperwork and therefore are especially attractive to illegal immigrants, and that many of those illegally in the Los Angeles area come from Mexico or Central America and do not speak much English. Moreover, when the agents confront a person whose situation seems to match these circumstances, and the person identifies himself as an American or an alien lawfully present in our country, the police immediately let the person go. the people arrested are those who are a properly aroused reasonable suspicion, not probable cause, or guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, the standard for a brief investigation stop is reasonable suspicion, and turn out to be in the country illegally. Man, this is from Andrew McCarthy. Then when I prosecuted cases against the mafia and jihadist terrorism, it was an unavoidable fact that made members of the mafia were and are of Italian descent, and that the jihadists were and are Muslims, jihad being a tenet of Islam and central to the fundamentalist Islam calls to violence. The fact that an investigator cannot help but notice these facts as part of, but never the totality of, the reasons to be suspicious is not racism, it's common sense. What's more, by law and training, it is drilled into agents to understand that they may not rest suspicion solely on race, ethnicity, religion, or other such categories. There must be reasons to believe a crime may be committed, facts that would go to whether the conduct at issue violated the law, not cultural or belief system characteristics of that person. A person's characteristics can never be the sole reason for triggering an investigation, but neither do they establish immunity from investigation. That is all the court ruled today, and that ruling is sound. That first part I told you about was from SCOTUS blog, and I'm assuming it was Amy Howe. Was it Amy Howe?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Amy Howe, and then the second one was Andrew McCarthy in National Review, and it's, of course, because what the judge basically said is anything that makes you say, okay, this is an area we should look at, where the majority of, where you know that the majority in that particular area are illegal immigrants, well, then you can't go there.
Right. Any of these elements of behavior or characteristics of the individual that the judge lined out, basically saying you can't use any of that. Actually, it's how investigations do begin. You're not going to, again, incarcerate. You're not going to prosecute based solely on those characteristics. But there are common elements and behavioral traits within that population that ICE is targeting. And they know this because of the experience of the agents and the agency itself. It actually goes into the training. It is part of the training for ICE agents, for Border Patrol agents, for anybody who's going to be involved in enforcing the border. And the judge was completely out of line, saying, yep, nope, all of that is off limits.
And then, listen to just how he wrote this here. Justice, this from Amy Howe and SCOTUS blog, Justice Kavanaugh emphasized what he characterized as the narrow role of judges in immigration cases. Judges, he wrote, may have views on which policy approach is better or fairer. But judges are not appointed to make those policy calls. We merely ensure, he stressed, that the executive branch acts within the confines of the Constitution and federal statutes.
Yep. That might have also been aimed at another justice on the Supreme Court. But because it does apply. It applies to any of the judges who, again, want their opinion to be the law of the land. And that is not the case. It is not their place to create law from the bench, although some of them believe that it is. And again, we mentioned there could be issues, and when you're talking about bringing in the National Guard to a situation, you do have to tread lightly. You have to know exactly what those boundaries are. I don't believe the Trump administration has crossed any of those boundaries at all to this point. And
yeah, and I believe the ruling from that district judge last week that it violated what Trump did, the Posse Comitatus Act in
Yeah,
L.A. I disagree with completely
I don't
because
agree. Yeah.
that was the number one thing that they did that for was to protect ICE agents.
Right. Right.
And so you can't make if where Trump was talking about and where he was talking about, well, we're going to go in and to other cities for crime.
Right.
You notice that even in Chicago, everything is based on immigration law.
Right. Right.
Because if you just go into Chicago and say we're going to do law enforcement there, that in all likelihood, depending on what circumstances they're using, would likely violate the Posse Comitatus Act.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, and so again, I think it was fair because this is basically SCOTUS is saying, okay, this process is going to play out, but essentially, when you look at that, and Kavanaugh is right. You look at the behavioral traits and characteristics of the individuals who populate the target group for ICE. Again, you go back to what is the basis of the training for these ICE agents. It includes those elements. And you're not going to convict based solely on those characteristics, but you are, or behavior, but you are going to, and this is where the left has gone with crime in general. Well, we're not going to do the stop and frisk thing. We're going to do away with the broken windows approach to law enforcement. Well, when you do that and you tie the hands of enforcement, expect that crime is going to skyrocket. And the same applies here. If you're going to tie the hands of federal enforcement when it comes to enforcing the border and say, no, you can't use any of that. Well, that's ridiculous because those are common elements, again, within that target group that ICE is seeking. It's part of their job. You may not like it. You can have an opinion about it, but there's only one way really to enforce it, and it's to have a set of, and by the way, they do have a set of rules, protocol, that they have to follow in this enforcement.
And that's why Sotomayor here in the dissent described the court's actions as yet another grave misuse of our emergency docket. We should not live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, or appears to work at a low-wage job. Well, that's not what they're doing.
No, they're not. That's not what they're doing at all.
Right.
But this is the left sweeping everything into one corner.
And that was a quote, by the way.
Right, yeah.
From the decision.
And they're sweeping, they want to sweep everything into one corner, and it's based on a false premise. Margot Cleveland had a meme that she put up earlier, and she said, when any of the justices start with, we should not, and of course she's got the three liberal justices there in the meme. When the liberals begin a sentence with, we should not live in a country, I think, again, this is Margot Cleveland, a great legal mind, your terms are acceptable. And, because there's nothing forcing you to live in a country.
She's unconstitutional there. That's unconstitutional what she wrote there.
I think Margot Cleveland would have a sound argument against that.
That's unconstitutional.
Right, exactly.
Because you say we shouldn't live in this country, you're going to kick them out now.
Yeah, right. Well, you're the one. We shouldn't live in this country. Okay, that's fine with me. But this is the approach of the left, again, to base it on a false premise, to lie, make it something that it is not, to fearmonger in order to protect individuals, and many of whom are violent criminals, and fight to keep them here in this country. Keep in mind, this is the effort. That's the goal. Keep U.S. citizen criminals out of jail. They're free to walk the streets and murder. And violent criminals from other countries Even after we deport them, you better bring them back. That's who the left is
the whole
today.
Sanctuary city law is based on protecting illegal immigrant criminals.
Yep. We have to keep in mind this case here,
and as we
based
know,
in Los Angeles, based in sanctuary state of California.
And as we know, it's not just the politicians. We brought you the polling from a couple of months ago. The majority of Democrats believe that criminal illegal immigrants should be able to roam the street free. This isn't the members of Congress.
No.
These are the Democrat voters. Understand that the members of Congress are doing the bidding of the voters that still vote Democrat who wish to have illegal immigrant criminals running free in the streets.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're fighting for it.
Yeah.
It's their agenda. It's one of the hills they want to die on. And they don't care about you as a law-abiding citizen. They don't care about your safety. They don't care about your family. They don't care. This is what they're fighting for. This is what the left, the radical left, wants. You have to keep that in mind every time you consider everything that's on right now that's on the table. Because the moment we start accepting this kind of behavior, it's the moment we give it up, and you might as well not have any law enforcement on the streets, because why would you? Why would you want any cops on the streets? The criminals, they're the real victims. The people who are here illegally, they're victims. That's what they want you to believe. That's what they're fighting for.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operator Mike Nichols is leased to Wayne Transports, pulling in their dry bulk division today after decades in business for himself. Speaking to Overdrive's Todd Dills recently, Nichols offered a word of advice to any company driver planning to make the switch to running as an owner-operator. Unless you've got access to family money or otherwise independently wealthy, he noted.
As a company driver, you need to be thinking about startup capital and down payment. And I would just say that you need to treat that like you would firewood. Save what you think you might need and then triple it, if not quadruple it. And you'll be thankful that you did.
You'll be glad you did. That is, not just given favorable loan terms with a good down payment. Inevitably with trucking, you'll get hit with a breakdown and huge repair bill, or another of those unforeseen events. You'll need that reserve cash to cover it and avoid taking on debt or going out of business. Hear more from Overdrive's 2024 Trucker of the Year contenders at overdriveonline.com/PIB.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. So, yeah, I mean, when you're talking, I was seeing it was Jamel Hill, Mayor Bass, all saying, well, now you can be arrested just based on your ethnicity. Mm-hmm. Of course, they say they don't put it in the context of immigration,
Right.
Arrest. They just generally say which is completely and totally false, and it's even false if you're an illegal immigrant.
Yeah,
you cannot be arrested just for, and removed from the country just because of your ethnicity. But of course, they have to exaggerate what the Supreme Court said in order to make their point.
Yeah,
because they don't have a point if they don't exaggerate in quotation marks, lie about what the Supreme Court ruling was on it.
Right. Yep.
And it wasn't a final ruling, by the way.
No. It allows the process to continue. basically. That allows them to enforce while the process continues.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't see. They look at it and they say, we don't think you're going to be successful in this to begin with.
Right.
That's one of the reasons that they put out there.
Right.
We don't view you as being successful. I'm paraphrasing here, but that was actually said in that decision.
Right.
So.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. I'm sorry, I'll always be an advocate for freedom of speech. And especially, I will defend the right from those who disagree with me.
Yeah, but you're not going to force me to watch The View.
I will always defend their right to free speech.
Oh, they can say it. I'm just not going to listen to it.
So who's been talking lately? Stacey Abrams.
Oh, good.
You ready for this one?
I guess.
Listen to this. Here we go. I just saw this a couple minutes ago, and I went, all right, we have to change what we were going to do just to play this.
All right.
I don't know how much comment there will be on this, but we need to play it. Here we go.
I think defending DEI is actually the cornerstone of restoring our democracy, because when you can manipulate and weaponize people against each other, when you get the people to do your bidding, you don't have to do it yourself. So you make transgender children the reason for inflation. And
I'm sorry, what?
So when you make transgender children the reason for inflation.
Has she been doing it so long that she's crossed streams, like in the Ghostbusters? What?
They make, we haven't said this in a while, but the Democrats, the liberals, make our case many times better than we ever can.
These transgender kids are causing inflation. What?
Where's she going to go? She's going to go to Brian Stelter? Yeah, somebody on X who supports Trump wrote that. Well, who's the person? We have no idea.
We don't know.
It isn't anybody that we know. It could be a bot. It could be anybody. But
somebody did it.
Somebody wrote that. Transgender children are the reason for inflation. Wow. It's so bizarre. Normally, I could come up with some kind of stupid Babylon Bee analogy, sarcasm for humor. That's so bizarre. I couldn't think of one. Transgender children are the reason for inflation. Because the next question would be, well, why? First off, which Republican is saying that transgender children is a reason for inflation, and how did they explain that?
All right, we need help from our audience. Everybody who can safely do it right now, Google, are transgender children causing inflation? Google it right now.
Are you going to make me do it, Art?
Make it number one trending on Google.
I'm doing it now.
Yeah, for inflation.
Okay. Let's see what comes up. Are you ready?
All right.
I am now
did
going
it autofill, by the way?
No, it did not.
Okay.
It did not autofill.
Right. Well, that's encouraging. Had it autofilled, then that means somebody already did it.
Here we go. All right. There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Does AI even have an answer for that? I'm guessing no.
Okay, here it is. There is one article from 2022.
All right.
Let me just see here if I can get it. Conservative podcast host Charlie Kirk has a new theory correlating America's rising inflation to the transgender movement, saying they're exactly the same. He said that the country's trans issue is really an issue of reality, adding that people aren't allowed to change their own reality without clearly explaining it. He said there's a direct link between inflation and transgender identity. He began by saying poor people can't one day say, I'm rich, and it becomes true. He added that there has to be, okay, I understand what he's saying.
Okay.
Okay, he's not making
He's
the
saying
case.
if you're being delusional about it,
Right.
delusional about something, you can be delusional about anything and everything.
Yeah, he didn't never, okay, he did not say that
No.
they are causing inflation.
No.
Right, okay, just wanted I saw that. That was from April 14, 2022.
Right. Now, I'm going to say children in general cause inflation. I know they do in my house. That's why my grandkids are only welcome one day a week. My spending goes way up when they're at the house.
This is from Reason magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is simply, okay. Republican voters were mad about inflation, not trans people, but that's also from 2022.
Right, yeah.
Well, I don't think... Who's mad at trans people?
I'm not angry at anybody.
I'm not angry at anybody.
I'm just not going to change science.
It's like, you're phobic. You're transphobic.
I don't fear anybody either.
Explain to me what that means.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Exactly. Where's the phobia? Where's all that fear? You know, it's the left that's peddling fear all the time. Now, they don't want you to fear murderers. Clearly, murderers should walk the street.
But there is no article where any Republican has stated that trans children causes inflation.
Yeah. No.
So,
no.
I think, and I know, hopefully I'm not defaming her, but I think she's making that up.
Yes. It appears to be untrue.
Yes.
Some would say it's a lie. Some people on social media are posting that it's a lie. Yeah.
And entering the studios is some. Some, what do you think?
Yeah, what do you think? Some people. Attack of the Some People.
All right.
There's a horror movie for you.
No.
What?
No.
What do you got?
Nick wrote us on X.
Okay, what do we got?
Well, guys, they did say inflation was transitory. Did they not?
Okay. Now we have to actually consider the fact that she doesn't know what transitory means.
Thanks, Nick, because I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
I was looking for some kind of sarcastic analogy, and Nick came up with it.
Yeah, Nick, thank you. He nailed it.
That's the tie-in.
Yeah.
All right. We were so terribly wrong.
Yeah.
Our deepest apologies to Stacey Abrams.
That's right. For not knowing what transitory means.
Well, I did read a lot of people complaining that Trans-Siberian Orchestra tickets had increased quite a bit for their pre-sale last week.
Right. Well,
so
maybe they found a new audience.
All right, Nick, now you got me thinking.
Well, there are two versions of the band, so
that's true.
We need to investigate this.
I loved it because I had to actually just not unfollow. I had to, because, I normally go, I don't buy my tickets for the pre-sale for Trans-Siberian Orchestra because you can't pick your seats.
Right.
I like to pick the exact seats that I want.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't do it. They just, and a lot of times the seats are just too close.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on the corners. I was like, nah. But it's the complaints of the people. But and obviously, some people have no idea, how to get tickets. And then people complaining, these tickets are outrageous. 25 years ago they used to be. Well, yeah, it's
right. Yeah.
And it was like, you apparently you don't understand the cost now, how everything has changed with concerts.
I used to get 10 licorice whips for a penny. In my day, heavy metal was cheap. It sounded cheap, and it cost cheap.
I remember having a nickel and being able to go to the store. God, I'd sound like an old man. And remember the fireballs?
Yeah.
I don't mean the shot.
Right. They took that away from children and turned it into liquor. Yeah. What happened?
Exactly. Well, we had those kids addicted to fireballs back in the 60s and 70s. Let's make it a liquor.
Yeah. No,
this is great.
I saw where they were someplace, I don't know if it was a bar, it was an advertisement though, where they were putting the candy thing, I don't know where they found the candy. Probably in a box in someone's basement inside of a fireball shot. So double fireball. Yeah.
That's like Goldschlager, they put gold.
Yeah.
Remember the gold?
Right.
Gold leafs in the Goldschlager.
Except for the fireball candy is not chewy.
Ew.
That's
I
would consider that a choking hazard.
I remember getting the fireballs for a penny and then remember I just thought about when I thought of fireballs, remember they had the little waxed looked like a soda pop bottle.
Yeah.
And you'd bite the top off, it'd be like some sweet juice inside
Right. It was just syrup. It was like 2 drops of syrup inside 5 pounds of wax.
And I thought they were wrong.
Yeah.
For getting, remember the whole thing of getting rid of candy cigarettes?
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't do it. Candy cigarettes kept me from smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Because I was addicted to those things.
Right.
I wonder why I'm a type 2 diabetic today.
Right.
But I was addicted to the candy cigarettes. And so when my brother somehow got a pack of cool cigarettes.
Right.
Because that was the cigarettes.
The commercials said they taste great.
Well, yeah, the TV commercials.
Yeah.
Had the ice cold mountain stream coming down, the cool of menthol.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after, indulging on candy cigarettes for the 5 years previous, I don't know how old we were. We're probably 11 or 12 when my brother got it. And we went behind the garage, my brother, myself, and 2 of our neighbors. We lit up those cigarettes and like, oh, God, this doesn't taste like a
This is horrible.
Doesn't taste like a
Why
mountain.
would anybody do this?
Exactly. But that was none of those people that were behind, my father's garage.
Yeah.
At 101 Moore Avenue in Kenmore, New York.
Right.
No one ever picked up smoking.
Right. It's just like the hard sodas. It's like, I got one of those hard grape sodas one time, got it home, took a sip of it, and I'm like, no, this isn't it at all. I wanted a grape soda. The liquor ruined my grape soda.
Did it?
Yeah, it was just horrible tasting. I didn't like it.
Oh, was it really? Okay.
Yeah, I was like, no.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
And the funny thing
it
is,
great.
Well, when I seen the store, I'm like, I got to get that.
Yeah.
And it's really not because of the alcohol content. I haven't had a grape soda.
Exactly.
But then again, I can't. They don't make diet grape sodas.
No. Not any good ones anyway.
Either. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but
no, candy cigarettes. That's why I had a deep voice by the age of 5.
They should have made candy whiskey.
Well, they were a gateway to the bubblegum cigarettes. Because the bubblegum cigarettes, it's like, okay, now I got gum too. to hide the cigarette, the candy cigarette breath.
And you blow, and they're like,
Yeah.
the powder would come flying out of it,
It's
whatever.
confectioner sugar
Yeah.
would just puff out.
It's,
Yeah, that was always fun to do. That lasted about 1/4 of a second.
we need Robert Kennedy Jr. to do some intense research. What was more harmful, real cigarettes or the sugar level in candy cigarettes?
Right. Well, you know, it was, I probably said at 5 years old, one day a Kennedy is going to ruin all of this.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
And good morning. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, you asked the other day, you asked in the last segment, you said The View. Oh, by the way, they're back on again.
Yeah.
So, of course, we have an audio cut from The View.
Of course we do.
Yes. We
Right.
can't forget about that.
That's right.
Plus the whole vaccine debate, and really interesting that, something that you and I were talking about when we talked about the murder in Charlotte on the light rail line, and Elon Musk posted it. Most crime is committed by people with 3+ prior arrests. It's something that you and I have talked about before. We'll get to that coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here this morning. Coming up, we will have a Whoopi audio cut.
All right. Looking forward to that.
Don't worry, it's good.
All right.
It's like, what? Never got a chance. We were on vacation last week when Robert Kennedy Jr. was testifying before the Senate. And we've talked about it before. I mean, the problem was created because the government lied to us about the effectiveness of the COVID vaccine.
Right.
And really, there were 3 things that we believe that they were dishonest about, lacked the information about, so made it up as they were going along.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, as we know, that the vaccine would stop the spread.
Right.
That was not true. That don't know. I won't know if I would call this a lie or whatever. Not sure about, but it was definitely misinformation that the COVID vaccine was only good for one of the viruses.
Right, one strain. Yeah.
Exactly. One strain of the virus. The third is, as we know, I mean, it really has nothing to do with the vaccine, but the COVID virus is, of course, how they tried to hide it, which added to the distrust of government because of the entire thing of them not wanting to investigate China's role. And it's, by the way, it still exists today.
Yeah,
there doesn't seem to be
in play.
There does not seem to be, with Republicans in charge, a absolutely focused investigation promoted on a consistent basis, so it doesn't happen again as to where the virus came from.
Right.
Maybe that's because everybody now knows it came from China.
And, I mean, look, do I believe even if China were to cooperate, and I'm actually making the little quotations signs with my fingers, that they would actually give us all the information? No. But where's the effort? Where is the investigation here domestically as to what led up to it? There's things that we can't control, like what China's going to provide or won't provide. But there are things that I believe can be found through a proper investigation. And the question is, where's the will for that investigation?
And the other one was the inflammation that was caused by the virus. They didn't let the public know. And I've seen a lot over the last, couple of days, especially, which is, well, what we want is full transparency. Duh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
yeah, it's a given.
Really?
Yeah.
Full transparency going on. But so the problem is the public doesn't trust the government when it comes to, because of COVID, doesn't trust the government. That's a huge problem. And so the pendulum swings in the other way.
Yeah.
Where you get somebody like Robert Kennedy Jr., the head of our health care now in the United States.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
The leading voice of it, who has, well, for example, the other day in his opening statement, he congratulated Trump on Operation Warp Speed, from somebody who we all know does not believe at all in the COVID virus and has come out in the past against all vaccines, which he's done.
Mm-hmm.
He denies it, but it exists.
Right.
Well, I had it in a different context. Of course you did. But the big problem is here, too, I think, is, this is it gets back. I was reading, I think it was Wall Street Journal, at a op-ed piece. I think it was Dr. Mark Siegel, neurologist, neuroscientist, who was talking about, well, this debate's just going back to what the debate's always been, freedom versus safety, which is a great point.
Right, yeah.
But one thing that he brings up that's lost in all of this is the mRNA vaccine is completely different than the weakened virus vaccines that have existed for the longest time. And there seems to be not a differentiation between the two. The inflammation, for example, did I say information? The inflammation, for example, not a problem with the weakened virus vaccines.
Right.
But every single thing that you get, it's really funny that, you want to know the risk versus the benefits of it. And when you look at the vaccine, for example, there was never a reason to have young people take the vaccine. There was probably, and again, it might change depending on the research, probably anybody under the age of 50 who was healthy probably did not have to take it, probably 60. I knew personally two people, and then professionally in our business, two conservative radio talk show hosts that wish they had taken the vaccine. They all died of COVID. That's not a medical analysis, though.
No,
because we don't know their individual, the individual cases, and that's what you'd have to look at to come up with some type of, I think, medical conclusion, to that. But the one thing the COVID vaccine did do, which has not yet been disputed, is if you are somebody who had it and and you an underlying condition, elderly, for the majority of the people, not all, but for the majority of the people, it reduced the symptoms and probably saved a ton of lives. But it had its drawdowns, too, as we all know. But there was no reason when they did the vaccine mandate for kids, there was no call for that. And so when you look at all these things that we were told, which were a lie, expect that it's going to go in the complete opposite direction. That's what happens. And that's where we are right now.
Yeah. Well, and again, still no desire to find the truth. There isn't really any political push right now to get to the bottom of it. There is no outrage right now.
It's sort of a vaxxer versus anti-vaxxer argument.
Yeah.
I hear this so much. It's either all or none. When all vaccines are bad. Well, that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
All vaccines are great and there's no risk. That's also not true.
Right.
Look at the prescriptions that you take. Look at the side effects.
Well, and I think that, that's part of the risk in the quick adaptation of the vaccines was there was no time to assess those side effect risks. And those side effect risks could apply to anybody in any group.
Well, then be transparent about it.
Right.
And what was the reason for forcing it on children?
Well, and forcing it on the public. I mean,
on the public,
because
right.
If you
exactly,
think about
right.
it, because
especially when it didn't stop the spread.
Right. If you were cautious and said, look, I don't trust anything that's developed in such a short period of time without knowing what long-term side effects might be. All of a sudden, you were cast out. You were accused of, well, you can't. And remember, it wasn't just policymakers. It was people leading companies. Well, you're now a danger to others if you don't get it, because we were told that if you get the vaccine, well, then you can't spread the vaccine. And if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to spread it to others.
Right. Right.
Well, the vaccine didn't stop you from spreading.
Yeah, it's a good argument if it was true.
If it were true. Yeah,
right, exactly.
but it
wasn't true.
Right.
And they knew it.
Yep. And kept it going and forced it and forced it and forced it and forced it. And we pointed out along the way those policymakers, especially high-profile policymakers like the governor of California, Governor Newsom, and said, forget about this hypocrisy argument. They don't believe the science. When he's out there early on at a table in close proximity with people, including doctors at that table, having dinner and laughing and doing everything and not wearing masks.
Well, I think one of the worst messages, it was, remember the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah.
With, what's his name?
From the Lakers.
The basketball player, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were all
Magic Johnson.
Yeah, they were all talking on masks, and we're like, well, he's high risk.
In fact, he would be in one of the highest risk groups there is.
Right, which then you went, well, is he high risk? Because the government's been lying to us. Are they lying to us about being high risk?
Well, because Gavin Newsom in that moment didn't even care about the aesthetics of making it look like he believed the science. He full on just did not believe the science.
Yeah.
He had no concern with being right next to Magic Johnson, probably one of the most high-profile HIV patients in the world, without a mask.
Right. than the dinner, the dinner that he had the one time also.
Yeah, with some of those were at the table were doctors.
And then the other thing that we brought up, and this has been brought up over the last week, and it's something that we brought up immediately when we said the Biden administration doesn't care whether Americans get COVID. It's all a lie.
Right.
Well, how can you say it's a lie? Because they didn't care about people coming across. It's the same time where they were closing the northern border, where you were restricted. They were telling illegal immigrants, come across the border, and were they all being checked? No. They weren't being checked, so they didn't care.
Right.
They never cared about it. And so when you look at all of that, the totality of all of it, people are like, I don't know what the hell to believe.
Well, and that's it. And where the vaccine thing has always been for me is people can make those individual choices based on the information they have, based on the conversations they have with their doctor, until you get the government and CDC pushing everything in one direction. And then companies saying, well, you can't do this. Local leaders, you can't do this, and you must be vaccinated to do this. You must wear the mask and everything else in controlling all of that, which forced a lot of people to say, well, I guess I got to get the vaccine. They felt like they had no choice. Let's all get in line and march the march. Remember, it was just a few weeks to flatten the curve.
And then the masks didn't work.
Right.
And
the vaccines didn't stop the spread.
Right. And so when you see all of that, the totality of all the lies that happened, we are where we are today. Now,
well, you were a conspiracy theorist if you brought up herd immunity, which is one of the most logical conclusions to come to, is that eventually, if you're not high risk and don't have other underlying conditions, by the way, I do. I've got, I don't say I've got a bum ticker. I've got a bum lung because of a genetic disease. But it was still my choice. And if you weren't a part of any group that didn't have those underlying conditions and weren't at great risk, you could make those choices. Well, no. In fact, herd immunity probably helped me as much as it did anybody else, even with an underlying condition.
Well, I mean, it's why we are where we are today.
Exactly.
Because what is it, 13% now taking boosters, I think it was.
Is it 13? Still?
13%, yeah.
Yeah.
Which means everybody has been exposed to it. They were a long time ago.
Right, yeah.
And so that's why it hasn't flared up again, is because of, the...
Right. I mean, people still get it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not, we're more immune to the ill effects of it.
Yeah, a guy I was supposed to see last week when I went to Florida. Couldn't see him. He got COVID.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's. I did see Trump though. I think Trump. You saw Trump come out and say, "I don't know if I agree with Florida's law because many vaccines are credible and do work." And so it'll be interesting to see. I saw though that was it Kimberly Strassel who wrote it from the Wall Street Journal? Said the problem with Kennedy serving in his position is nothing's getting done.
Yeah.
That he is not fulfilling what Trump wants. I went, oh, that's interesting. I'll see if I can find the article.
Interesting.
Here, read parts of it here. That it's not actually his vaccine stance. It's that he can't get quality people to work for him, which means he cannot institute the Trump agenda.
Right.
I'll find it and read it to you. I thought I read it last week.
No, it makes sense though. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a problem if nobody wants to work under him. Then you're not going to be able to get things done,
or even the people that aren't performing.
Interesting.
So I'll find the article. We'll have it for you.
Yeah.
But so that's why we are where we are. We're where we are because the government lied and nobody trusts the government.
Right. Right.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, I've got the Whoopi cut. You ready? The Whoopi audio cut?
All right.
All right, here we go. All right. And this is on illegal immigration.
Yeah.
The 450 illegal immigrants that were arrested at the Hyundai plant in Georgia. Here we go.
So here's a question. Last week, Georgia Hyundai plant, where over 450 people were taken into custody, suspected of living and working illegally. Over 300 of them were South Korean. Did you know they were here to build a plant to create American jobs?
Oh, wow. And they rounded them up.
Them up.
But were they here legally?
Yeah, but they were taking American jobs.
Yeah,
That's the point. It's like they were here to build a plant to create American jobs. Oh, real? Well, is that what?
American jobs that Americans weren't working.
Oh, my God. Is there any brain matter in there at all?
No, it seems like they had a very restful vacation. And the view.
Observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara. Nightly on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when you want. That's right.
And thank you.
So I did find the article, which has a very unique opinion, one opinion that you really don't hear much at all about. And it was Kimberly Strauss of Wall Street Journal, RFK Jr.'s GOAT Rodeo. Trump's cabinet members tirelessly serve his agenda, meaning Trump's agenda, except this one, talking about RFK Jr. And he said, one big problem, RFK alone among Mr. Trump's cabinet members is pursuing his own agenda, not the president's vision. Secretary of State Marco Rubio moves at warp speed to implement Mr. Trump's goal of reduced foreign aid. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Collins is cutting deals to hand more food stamp flexibility over to states, just as Trump promised. The heads of the Interior and Energy Departments and Environmental Protection Agency are revamping entire rule books to unleash American energy. Mr. Kennedy, he's perusing lists of his trial lawyer friends, deciding whom to award influential government positions. You're forgiven if you don't remember Mr. Trump's campaign promise to empower Mr. Kennedy's litigator set. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Performance, nothing is getting done, in part because Mr. Kennedy cannot put together or keep a team. Most GOP cabinet members struggle with the career staff they inherit. Mr. Kennedy cannot manage his own political hires. How many weeks occupied the question of whether FDA official Vinay Prasad was forced out or rehired? And Mr. Kennedy is hardly being sabotaged by CDC nominees since they were his people. He proposed former Representative Dave Weldon for the job, a nomination Mr. Trump was forced to pull after controversy. RFK in July personally swore in the new CDC director, Susan Monarez, raving about her unimpeachable scientific credentials, only to fire her less than a month later. Mr. Trump is complaining about delays in getting his nominees confirmed, but by all means, let's gem up the calendar with a third CDC nominee for the year. If Mr. Kennedy can't find anyone to work with, it's because he's the only Trump cabinet official who divide the base. The Make America Healthy movement has gained some steam, mostly because of the Kennedy perch. But if there is a minority of HHS customers that get jazzed by a raw milk debate, there are many more, including Republicans, who find Mr. Kennedy a quack or would appreciate if he devoted even a few minutes to improving their Medicare experience. And literally no one feels more confidence right now in the CDC or the FDA, since no one knows who is in charge or how they are going to reverse themselves next. You can count Mr. Kennedy's genuine GOC supporters in the Senate on one hand, even if their colleagues are too chicken to say anything publicly about it. This is overshadowing Trump's successes. Are we talking this week about how the administration cut crime in Washington or GOP plans for housing? No, we're talking about a Kennedy mess again. And while no Republican leader expects the mainstream media to say nice things about the party's work, there are good bad headlines, the kind that make conservatives cheer, and all bad headlines, the kind that makes conservatives question GOP competence. Mr. Kennedy's headlines are of the latter type, and they are making it too easy for critics to smear the entire administration. And NBC News right-up this week explained that RFK Agendas was part of Trump's 2.0 pattern that included EPA's rejection of long-established scientific principles like climate change. Well, that's deeply unfair to EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, who is accomplishing years of reforms in months, and until now, with only the good kind of bad headlines. I like that.
Yeah.
The good kind of bad headlines for the Trump administration. Anything that conservatives and a significant portion of independents agree with.
Right, yeah.
So there you go. The comparison holds across the board. Mr. Trump presumably has to see that one of his departments looks decidedly unlike the others, and that this situation isn't going to improve or settle down. You know, when you had the Surgeon General of Florida come out and say they want to go in the direction of no vaccine mandates at all.
Right.
And then Trump came out and said, oh, I don't know about that because I think a lot of vaccines, actually work, and I don't agree with that. I found that interesting because is he trying to moderate what's coming out of HHS with Kennedy? I don't know, but the fact that he spoke on that I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Well, and something we talked about when RFK Jr. was nominated, and that was, all right, look, we have great concerns about him being in that position at Health and Human Services. But if he's doing the will of the president, that was the huge asterisk there.
Right. Yeah.
The question is the president's agenda getting done through Health and Human Services? You know, the Maha thing.
Overhyped?
Well, it hasn't taken off.
Yeah.
You know, you can say, all right, but no more red dye number 2. I kind of liked red dye number 2. Okay. You say, okay, no more chemicals in cereal. Okay. All right. What else you got? Because that's, it seemed to be a couple of, it wasn't a one-trick pony. It was like a two-trick pony. And it kind of, and the other trick was push-ups. Well, that doesn't get you there.
Well, if you really wish to Maha, by the way, every time I see Maha, I think of having a Mai Tai. I don't know why, but I just do.
Yeah.
If you really want to do it, you ban cigarettes, you ban pot, smokable, right, because of the carcinogens.
Right.
You ban the smoking, vaping,
the dye in edibles.
The dye in edibles, and you ban alcohol.
Right. Wait, what?
Well, I mean, I am not suggesting that we do all those things. I'm saying that what I'm suggesting
it's a conditional statement, yeah.
Right? If that's your goal to really make America healthy again,
yeah,
and you it was like it was sort of like the entire overhype of sugar in Coca-Cola.
Right, yeah. Bringing back the pure cane.
Right.
Coca-Cola.
We're bringing back the pure cane.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then you're going to see a drastic improvement in the health of Americans if you put sugar.
Right.
If you have 60 grams of carbs in a can of Coke.
Right.
Yes, that's really going to make America. I mean, that to me was it was way overhyped. It was dumb. They were celebrating it. Not as much as the Epstein files.
Right. Well,
but it was still like, and you and I are like, okay, government's telling us how to be healthy again. Sorry, we're cynics when it comes to that. Because if you really want to do it, you can sit there and you can crawl around the surface of it, but are you actually going to get deep and do the things that if you really wanted to make America healthy, you'd have to ban a ton of stuff, and they're not going to do it.
No, they're not.
Americans aren't going to stop eating sugar.
No.
Americans are not going to exercise more.
No.
You can have him doing, that's why we chuckled a little bit when him and Hegseth and, especially him and his genes, because that was the big question, was not, well, do you think this will make America healthy again? The question for Kennedy was, why are you exercising in jeans?
Right.
I mean, it was
right. Exactly.
I mean, becomes a parody of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. And you and I both have always tried to live healthy lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
And what you find out is it's a personal choice. Government cannot dictate unless you live in a totalitarian society, which you don't have many food items to choose from, which is a very great way to keep people eating properly, is have nothing to eat.
Right. Exactly. Fasting is good for you, remember.
Yes, but the the whole Maha thing to me is way overblown. It isn't catching on with anybody.
Nobody's... Well, it's not going anywhere. There's really not much to it. It doesn't matter what kind of message you want to put out or propaganda you want to put out or whatever it is. There isn't going to be a concerted effort by the public until the public is concerned about it, which, again, isn't going to happen in our lifetime. Look, we took peanut butter out of the jar and replaced it with pure chocolate. It's called Nutella. We just gave up. Peanut butter? Why would I? No, I can have a chocolate sandwich.
Well, the thing, though, we're healthy again.
Right.
Sugar in Coke.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Well, you're not really accomplishing that much.
Right. I saw an actual cereal that is basically Captain Crunch filled with Nutella. I'm not joking. It exists.
So that really sticks to the roof of your mouth.
It sticks to everything. When you're eating it, it sticks to the roof of someone else's mouth. We've given up. We don't care. Remember back when people used to care? Well, I'm low fat. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Yeah, there are a handful of people out there that care for about 10 minutes a year. A comedian did a joke the other day. He said, so I pay $30 a month for my gym membership. That works out to about $30 per workout. It's not. It isn't. It isn't going to be. There could be something that brings on a new trend. Look, we were all afraid of needles until the latest craze of diet drugs. The injection diet drugs. Which for diabetics, great, and for people that are, using it successfully, if you choose that, that's great. It tends to be a trend. It tends to be that most people don't stay on that trend and don't stay with it for a lifetime, with the exception of a few. And it's never going to be the case where the government or a government agency comes in and says, we should do push-ups, and then all of a sudden people are just dropping and giving you 20.
Drop and give me 20.
We're going to drop and take a nap. That's what we're doing. You know why? Because we just had a whole jar full of chocolate.
And most of us are not going to be Niedermeyer.
Exactly.
Drop and give me 20.
Exactly.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. One thing I wanted to say about, the whole, because just talking about Maha and the Robert Kennedy Jr. is the head of HHS.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that you and I said about climate change. I don't want to see politicians arguing it.
Right.
I want to see scientists. And remember, it was one of the conservative think tanks that about a decade ago brought in scientists and said, we want to have a scientific debate. They couldn't find anybody from the left that wanted to debate.
Right.
And that was a great point. Politicians arguing climate change means nothing to me. Get the scientists in there. Same thing with vaccines. I don't want to see Robert Kennedy Jr. going back and forth with Ron Wyden.
Exactly.
It doesn't do anything for me.
Right. Exactly.
I want the transparency of the scientists explaining it to me the way that my doctor.
Yeah.
I'll see you in a couple of weeks, because every 6 months when you're a type 2 diabetic, you go. The way he explains things to me, which is the chemistry of it.
Right.
And he explains it to me. Here's how it goes. Here's this. Here's that. Here's why you have this.
Right.
This, we have no idea.
Right.
And he'll tell me when he has no idea. He goes, we don't know how this happens. We don't know this. Here's what we do know.
Yep.
That's what I want.
Right. Exactly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's interesting when we were talking about Maha, Make America Healthy Again and all that, and the push-ups, and this all, it came out of talking about his testimony, Kennedy's testimony, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s testimony before the Senate last week. And one of the reasons we chuckle at, when he was doing the push-ups is that's not going to make America healthy.
Right.
The food color dyes, whatever. You look at the big problems that Americans have. We eat too much. We don't exercise enough. And smoking and drinking still a problem.
Yeah.
And probably whatever, even, legal drug use and illegal drug use. Those are really when you look at the health problems we have today, it's bad. One of the things, though, is when Kennedy says, for example, that we have the least healthiest country in the world. That's ridiculous. That our health is worse than ever. That's ridiculous. Those are absolutely absurd statements that Kennedy makes. And now it's funny because the influencers, most of them are, males in their 30s that support anything that Trump or even Kennedy does. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. No, it's not right. It's wrong. And if you look at the United States and you say, yes, but we have many more cases of, well, if you look at so many of the different diseases that exist out there, one of the reasons that we have a drastic increase in a lot of chronic diseases is people are getting tested for it.
We're documenting it.
Yeah, we document it.
In many nations, they don't have the testing. They don't, which means they don't document and keep track of it. They can't. They can sometimes go in and say, well, based on the population, we can assume this many has experienced these illnesses or diseases.
Remember there used to be a lot of hype over it. Remember, America has the greatest death rate for newborns. Yeah. Remember the research as to why?
Yeah. There were a few factors, in fact, yeah.
One of the biggest factors was it's the United States because of the technology attempt to save babies that are way premature. And other countries don't do that. And if other countries do that and don't succeed, they don't count that as a newborn death. In the United States, we do.
Right. I forget how many hours, if it's 24 hours or something, and the baby passes in other nations. And I can't quote you which other nations they are, but in some other nations, if there's a certain period of time and the baby passes within that period of time, they don't consider that a newborn death. So, it's again, it's also like crime in the UK. Remember, it was the violent crime. Well, they will log one, like if there's a stabbing of multiple people, we consider that, let's say there's 3 people, 3 victims, that's 3 stabbings. Over there, it's 1 incident. And also they were really big on gun crime. Well, you take all the violent crime and actually add it up and log it the way we do here in the States. And you had European media writing about it. Oh, this is the violent crime capital, at least of Europe, if not parts of the world, other big westernized parts of the world, because of the way that we track these crimes and list these crimes. And also, again, people using knives. But the good news is, Gary, over there, they're making progress against knives on the street because they're cleaning out all the kitchen drawers.
Oh, I thought you
remember that?
Oh,
and the
yes.
Screwdrivers.
I thought you were going to say it's a much safer nation because they're making sure that they are arresting those people that speak in a way which they do not like.
That too, yes.
You saw that.
Violent speech is also on coming down because they're arresting people for.
They're getting arrested for hate speech, which was whatever they feel hate speech should be for that particular day. So they do have that, and since that is violent crime. Well, to the left, right? That's violent crime.
Right.
But the point I wanted to make is, when you talk about getting people to exercise, that's why we chuckled over the Hegseth. Mm-hmm. Plus, I just love the social media. Why is Robert Kennedy Jr. doing push-ups in his jeans? That was just so funny. I always exercise in my jeans. Unless you're motivated to do it, most people aren't motivated to really exercise. They're just not. When I was younger, I loved playing basketball and hockey. That was my exercise. I really didn't lift weights. Mm-hmm. I didn't. If I did any running, which is more in my college years, it was to get me in shape, for basketball practice.
Yeah.
Or basketball. And I never loved exercising. I loved competing. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, about 10 years ago, when you do that for half a century, Everything starts going. What got me actually to do resistance training, my resistance weight training, actually was about 18, 19 years ago. I wanted to continue playing basketball and even hockey, and I couldn't do it because of my sciatic nerve. And so I started, a doctor suggested that I do resistance training, took it away immediately. That is, to not have that pain is incentive. But you mentioned the comedian you said spends $30 a month on a
gym membership.
Membership, and so
that works out to about $30 per workout.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because you just don't you just don't go. That's why when I built my house 18 years ago, my second guest bedroom, which can be changed into a second guest bedroom, is my exercise room. My exercise equipment, my resistance training equipment is right there. I have no excuse. The pool is 5 steps outside the back door. The bicycle is right in the garage. I knew that I just would never go to a gym.
Right.
I just wouldn't do it. It's just, okay, I got to get up, I got to do it. And with me, when I was diagnosed 9 years ago, 9 years and a few months ago with type 2 diabetes, it became no choice. I have to do it. And but that isn't even, you know what, really, it's funny because even that is not my greatest motivator. My greatest motivator for working out is doing the show. I know that if I don't work out, and I work out a lot, that number one, my blood sugar numbers are not going to be good. It's been tough the last year traveling so much. It's impossible to have a low-carb diet and be traveling compared to the low-carb diet that I have at home when I can prepare all my food.
Right.
It's a lot, you know, it just, you can do more when you're at home. And so all those things, you have to be really disciplined in what you eat. You have to be disciplined in how you exercise. If I didn't have a goal, there's 2 goals. One, to do the show. In the back of my mind, my doctor told me, you know, way back 9 years ago, told me after I successfully had kept my blood sugar to just about normal levels, maybe a tiny bit over normal. What is it? Beginning of what they call pre-diabetes, which means it's simply a warning sign. You know, it's like they got sort of like a stop sign. But and a lot of times you would know that I've type 2 diabetes. But when my doctor came to me and about 4 years after I had it and said, all right, you want the good news or the bad news? I said, give me the bad news first. And he said, type 2 diabetes is going to kill you. I go, what the hell's the good news? I knew he was being sarcastic somehow. Go, what's the good news? He goes, you keep this up, you'll be 120 when it does. And I went, I can live with that.
Yeah.
I will say that it's not death that scares me with type 2 diabetes. It's what you have to go through before you die.
Yeah, sure.
It's the torture. I don't ever want to get to the point. And both my doctors have told me, because I've had 2 doctors since that time, have told me that they have never had anybody who has really worked at it that's ever had a, you know, toe cut off or anything like that. I really have no extra weight. Weight's not a problem, nothing like that, but it's always trying to keep that blood sugar in check. You know, and so working out, but if I didn't have everything within 10 steps of me, I don't know if I would exercise. And I could care less what the government tells me to do. You have to be self-motivated to do it. And so number 1 is to do the show. Number 2 is I want to pick up and do golf again. And I can't do either of those two. And then the number 3 thing is to live a healthy life.
Yeah.
But the immediate gratification of being able to do the show and golfing, those are really the 2 things that daily keep me motivated.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It really, really, really is hard. I have a lot of sympathy for people that find themselves, you know, 50, 60, 70 pounds overweight.
Well, there's that. There's also the fact that, you know, a great number of people have to work longer hours and more jobs.
Yes.
When you're working those hours, it's like the traveling scenario you're talking about. sticking to a diet when you're working long hours, you're in transit, you're just grabbing something, and we've all been there, where you just have to eat when you can. And you have to eat what you can, what's available. And you don't have the time for meal prep, let alone exercise. And a number of these people may be at a job or multiple jobs where they're on their feet a lot, but it's not the type of exercise where you're getting your heart rate up and you're, doing the things required to either maintain weight or maintain certain numbers with your blood sugar or whatever it might be. So there's right now, it's interesting because I was thinking about this while traveling. I thought, we've kind of, and it really kind of related to the RFK Jr. thing, because I thought, well, we've kind of, I won't say given up, but we're focused on other things. Survival sometimes is about immediate, what the immediate need is. So when people, if it's a bad economy, down economy, whatever it might be, we're still in a situation where people are struggling to pay rent and keep up with their bills. And as long as that's in play, people are working more hours. And especially if you've got two people, right, two-income family, mom and dad, one's working two jobs, maybe you both are working two jobs, but even if just one is working two jobs, that means the other person's taking on more of the responsibilities around the house.
Mm-hmm.
And with children and everything else, you're just adding to that, and it becomes impossible.
I look at it right now, just with everything the last 10 years being a diabetic and wanting to do this show, which is unique doing this show because of the time that we're on.
Yeah.
I would have zero time for exercise that I need to do if I had a family.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm at about the limit of time management. I'm not complaining. I'm just stating a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I love my life, but I'm at the limit of time management.
I'm there myself. We have an adult special needs daughter. I'm her caretaker during the day, my wife during the evening and at night while I'm at work. And all of those things have to be balanced. And it's right. And quite frankly, this job requires you to be in touch basically every waking hour. You've got to be in touch with what's going on. And you're bookmarking things like crazy. It may not look like show prep, but then you're going back and revisiting stories and everything else. And so, again, just in the same boat that a lot of people are in. And it's one of those, balanced things that and to get that motivation. I think that's why when you look at those, and I made the joke about we used to be afraid of needles until, these miraculous drugs came around for weight loss. But also it offers people, again, a solution that doesn't require as much time. And people are always going to look at that. They're always going to be interested in that. People say, well, that's the easy way out. I don't know about that. It depends on the individual. And certainly the more time you can manage and save by doing that process, if it gets you to a healthier place, great. I think it's a great option. It's just that it's not going to come from the government. It's not going to come from a government agency.
Yeah, it's having a healthy lifestyle to me is self-motivation. You have to. It's almost like, it's the same thing. It's not the exact same thing. I don't want Stacey Abrams to misquote me in some way. But, you think about it, an alcoholic's not going to change. Doesn't matter what anybody else says.
Until they want to.
They have to. And if you want to live a healthy lifestyle, government can't change that. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to make that decision.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So, it's healthy people. It's you've got to be self-motivated to do it. It's like whether you're going to stop smoking, whatever. Now, the government can put out information.
Yeah.
And you see that all the time, that if you're obese, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen.
Right.
But people aren't going to do push-ups because Robert Kennedy Jr. does.
No, they're not.
It's not going. You're not going to exercise because of that. It's because you're self-motivated to do that. Like anything else in life, you have to be self-motivated to do it.
Yeah.
Now, if you come from a culture, which really is the family and community that you school, family, whatever, of exercising, you're more likely to be somebody who does that, or you get involved in different activities where you can do that.
Apparently, I read where Tom Brady's family, like growing up, there were like things they just like didn't eat, a whole list of things they did not eat. That was his entire life. I mean, it was like, because most people would think, well, you become an athlete, and I know they start at a very young age, but that was just part of the household he grew up in, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the way he's always going to be. You can make changes, but again, you're going to have to, in order to make those lifestyle changes, that's going to have to be you to begin with. It's not going to be a government agency. Information is one thing, but motivation is yours.
Hey, what's back in the news? And the liberal media is bringing it up.
Yeah.
Auto pen.
Okay.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Well, this story came out, Eric, over the weekend, and it was from AXIOS. Not from a conservative publication.
Right.
But from AXIOS, a liberal publication. High-ranking Biden administration officials repeatedly questioned and criticized how the president's team decided on controversial pardons and allowed the frequent use of an auto pen to sign measures late in his term. Internal emails obtained by Axios shows. Now, I guess I can skip over the
why it matters.
Yes, we all know why it matters. Because
I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Well, because okay, all right, okay. We'll do the why it matters.
Okay, thanks.
The messages are the latest signs of the chaos surrounding the 82-year-old former president during the final weeks of his administration in two areas that are now being investigated by the Republican-led House Oversight Committee. President Trump has cited Biden's process in issuing pardons to try to justify many of his own controversial pardons and commutations on behalf of donor-connected supporters and others who were imprisoned for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Okay, that's why it matters.
All right, fine.
How it happened, I'm reading this as verbatim from Axios, just so everybody knows. How it happened, the political backlash to President Biden pardoning his son Hunter last December 1st. The White House began pushing to find more people to grant clemency to, according to people familiar with the internal dynamics. There was a mad dash to find groups of people that he could then pardon, and then they largely did not run it by the Justice Department to vet them, a person familiar with the process told Axios. Now, they say Biden granted clemency. We'll say the Biden administration did, because saying Biden even contradicts what they're going to say here in a couple of minutes. They're reporting. The Biden administration granted clemency to more people than any president in U.S. history, 4,245 people. More than 95% of those actions occurred in the final 3.5 months of his presidency, according to Pew Research. Many of those actions included pardoning other members of his family on his last day in office, were signed using an auto pen, a computerized version of the president's signature that did not require him to physically sign the document. The Biden's pardoned family members went through a unique process. Near the beginning of his presidency in 2021, incoming Staff Secretary Jess Hertz wrote a memo to Biden citing precedent from the Obama administration to argue that his original signature should still be used for all pardon letters. By 2025, Biden had opted for the auto pen to pardon 5 members of his family, including his brother and sister, who had been accused of leveraging the Biden family name for financial benefit. The decision to do so was made in a meeting that included First Lady Jill Biden's top aide, Anthony Bernal, according to internal emails. An email from Biden's chief of staff at 10:31 p.m. on the night of January 19th, less than 14 hours before Biden was to leave office, confirmed the use of the presidential auto pen for those pardons. I approve of the use of the auto pen for the execution of all the following pardons. Thanks, JZ, which are the initials, Jeff Zients, of his chief of staff, the account said.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting because it's not the president saying it.
Right.
And when they talked about here, the meeting, they don't say that Biden was in the meeting. They said Jill Biden's top aide was in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
The order came from Zients' email address, but he didn't personally send it. Zients' aide, Rosa Poe, who had access to his email account, wrote and sent the authorization of the president's auto pen to senior White House officials on Zients' behalf, even though he didn't send the email. He spoke to Rosa at the time, and he authorized her to send the email, which she sometimes did, but only with his permission. Zients, Poe, and Hertz did not respond to requests for comment. A spokesperson for the Biden declined to comment. Wow. Right there, Axios is saying those aren't legitimate pardons. The president, the former president, is not mentioned in any of the emails. The approval came from the chief of staff.
JZ, not JB.
Yes. Several senior Justice Department officials of the Obama administration raised objections about the clemency process with the White House counsel's office, which was led by Ed Siskell. He helped steer the clemency process in the administration's final months and did not respond to a request for comment. On January 17th, just 3 days before leaving office, Biden granted 2,490 commutations, the most ever by a president in a single day. Biden said they were for people convicted of nonviolent drug offenses who served long sentences. Biden boasted, with this action, I now have issued more individual pardons and commutations than any president in U.S. history. The next day, Senior Justice Department ethics attorney Bradley Weinsheimer penned a scathing memo stating that calling the clemency receipts nonviolent was untrue or at least misleading. Weinsheimer continued, unfortunately, and despite repeated requests and warnings, We were not afforded a reasonable opportunity to vet and provide input on those that you were considering. He proceeded to list some of those with violent crime records to whom Biden had given clemency, including a man who had pleaded guilty to charges related to murder after killing a woman and her 2-year-old daughter after the mother threatened to reveal his drug-dealing business to law enforcement. Weinsheimer said the Department of Justice had marked the man as problematic, but Biden did it anyway. I have no idea if the president was aware of these backgrounds when making those clemency decisions. Weinsheimer, who had worked at the Department of Justice for 34 years, resigned in protest in February after Trump's appointees reassigned him from the ethics-focused post. New York Post first reported the details of Weinsheimer's memo. Other Department of Justice officials also objected to the process the Biden White House used during the final months in office. Liz Oyer, a Justice Department pardon attorney, expressed anger about the White House's interference with death row inmates. She wrote that Biden's White House lawyers asked the Department of Justice not to request the views of the murder victims' families if the department had not done so already. That included 10 death row inmates who had not filed clemency before Biden considered it. After the extent of Biden's clemency actions became clear, by the way, if you ever wanted the evidence that even at the top, they don't care about violent criminals, there you go there.
That's it right there.
After the extent of Biden's clemency actions became clear, Oyer wrote an apology email to the U.S. attorney's offices, according to multiple people who have seen the email. The Trump administration dismissed Oyer after she raised concerns about the Trump's team's pardon process, according to her own account. Biden said he only used the auto pen for the thousands of commutations and pardons because we're talking about a whole lot of people. The explanation is undermined by records that indicate Biden only had to sign a few documents for every large group of people he granted clemency for.
Wow.
So they go through all of this. Zients, by the way, is to be interviewed by the House Oversight Panel on September 18th about Biden's use of the auto pen. But according to the emails Axios has, on those last days, including members of his family, Biden wasn't involved in the decision.
Right.
If he wasn't involved in the decision-making,
those aren't legitimate, period. And then it makes you wonder what other items during that time, aside from pardons.
Yeah, they keep bringing up, for example, Trump. You may disagree, and I probably can say every single president I've disagreed with pardons that they've given, Democrat and Republican across the board. But at least they did it. They signed it.
Right.
They said, we're going to pardon. So whatever responsibility and or there's never any consequences for it, any possible consequences, they signed it.
Right.
They did it.
Right.
It wasn't auto pen. So it was legit whether you liked it or not. So there you go. But very interesting that when you see the pardon for his family members and the unique process that it went through. And Jeff Zients, the chief of staff, is the one that approved of those pardons.
No mention of Biden himself.
Yeah. But the email that he sent out was not sent out by him, but by his assistant.
Yeah.
So where does this lead us to? Here's Ted Cruz talking about it on Fox News.
Joe Biden, as far as I can tell, he had no awareness of anything. I don't know that I'd let Joe Biden handle the remote control on the television, much less make a decision. And it was elder abuse by everyone around him for doing that. But the legal question, if he did not make the determination person by person, that is legally null and void.
Family probably doesn't want to hear that one.
No, they don't.
See if the Department of Justice comes up with crimes against the Biden family and the only one immunized is Hunter, and the rest go to jail.
Right. Hunter throws everyone else under the proverbial bus.
And Hillary goes to jail, too. Why? I just wanted to say that to tick off Democrats.
Yeah, exactly. Just because she's Hillary.
Yes, exactly.
That alone should be a crime.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's completely, totally innocent. She's never done anything wrong. Jail her anyway.
Yeah. Exactly. Look, her whole email server thing caused inflation. We all know.
Yes, exactly. You had to be listening earlier in the show to understand that one.
But now you have to ask, all right, what else was the auto pen used for? Where else was there essentially no authority from Joe Biden?
You would think, I would think if you asked me, if I was in charge of the use of the auto pen, I would say that only for public proclamations and documents that should be used.
Yes.
Nothing official at all.
Nothing binding,
right.
Essentially, right.
Anything official has to be the signature of the president by
I would agree.
Their own hand.
Right.
Other stuff, it's proclamations for National Fruitcake Day.
Yeah.
That could be done by auto pen.
Right. Which should be December 32nd.
Exactly. All right, I'll say National Banana Bread Day.
All right.
You could put your signature on that one.
December 15th.
Why the 15th?
I don't know.
Okay.
Why?
I wasn't arguing because I have no date. I just wondered
I
why
don't have any special.
Why you'd come up with that particular date.
It's 10 days before Christmas.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I think the auto pen should be used.
Mm-hmm.
All the proclamations and stuff that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Nothing that is legal in any way should an auto pen be used.
Right.
Because if the president signs it, whether he has the cognitive ability to know what he's signing or not, you really can't argue it at that point.
Right.
To protect yourself and what your mission is as president, it should be done that way.
Exactly.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Our show ends in an hour, and after our show ends, it becomes our podcast. We record all 5 hours of the show. And so if you miss part of it, you can catch it on our Red Eye Radio app. Plus, if you can't listen to one of our great radio stations overnight, that's our preferred way. But if for some reason you can't, you can hear all 5 hours because we stream it live here on our Red Eye Radio app. A new poll on Gen Z coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.